It actually wasn't until a few years ago that I found out about what exactly pull yourself up by your bootstraps means and where it came from. And when it did, it was like a mind shift. Hi friends, welcome back to the Avocado Toast Budget. If you're new here, my name is Lexa, and today we are switching gears up a little bit from our normal talk of debt payoff, investing, and saving, because I really wanted to make a video talking about the toxicity of grind and hustle culture. Thankfully, I do feel like with everyone kind of going into a lockdown all of 2020, there was a little bit of a break in this mindset and in our culture. But as things are kind of starting to return back to some sense of normalcy every once in a while, I see it coming back very quickly. And if you have been here, you know that the ATB has never just been about scratching the surface on personal finance. I like to dive deep into the whys, the systemic oppression behind things, the politics behind money, and I think that this is a really important topic. We are going to talk about bootstrapping, the history behind grind and hustle culture, and also take a look at capitalism and who really benefits from this. I want this to be an open conversation that we're all having, so definitely leave me your thoughts in the comments down below as you watch this or at the end. I really want to hear from your perspective. We've got some really interesting things to cover in this video, so let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so we have all heard the term pull yourself up by your bootstraps, usually said by some like white boomer dude who's complaining about how millennials are so spoiled and entitled, and generally followed by something along the lines of,
well, back in my day, we had to work for what we had.
Even just like imagining the conversation or remembering conversations that I've had, because I've had tons of them, gets my blood boiling. And while I do think that a lot of millennials and Gen Zers are seeing the issues with bootstrapping and that kind of mentality, I think that we've just kind of rebranded it into this grind and hustle mentality. The more time that I've spent in the personal finance space, the more that I see this over and over again on social media. There are so many posts that equate someone's ability to work their asses off with their morality or their inherent worth. And sometimes these are very straight to the point, in your face, obvious that that's what it's doing. And sometimes it's hidden behind the well-intention of everyone should have a side hustle. If you're not side hustling, you're doing it wrong. Work your ass off now so that you can save money later. Without a lot of discussion about the ableism behind this, the racism behind it, and why we are putting so much emphasis on someone's ability to hustle. Let's talk about this. First, I want to go over the real history behind the concept of bootstrapping. So, fun fact, the idea of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps actually dates back to the 19th century. And an even more fun fact is that it actually referred to an impossible task. So yeah, the same saying that we use now to describe what someone should be doing in order to move up in the world by themselves and just work hard to achieve whatever they want was actually meant to describe something impossible to do. Ironic, isn't it? Because let's all be honest here, no one gets to the top by themselves. I actually have a video coming up that I'm outlining and just kind of perfecting right now about this myth behind the self-made millionaire and billionaire that stems from a very popular statistic that I see in a lot of posts in the personal finance space, talking about a certain percent of millionaires are self-made. This varies all the time. I think people are just making up numbers, but usually it's somewhere between like 60 and like 90%. But no one really talks about like the why behind that, or really actually ever questions how that could be possible. So definitely, if you're interested in that, I'm very interested. I have like gone into the world's deepest Google rabbit hole to find out more. Stay tuned, because that is coming up hopefully very soon, because I'm very excited to film it. But the whole idea here is that no one who has accomplished literally anything did it completely by themselves. And the same goes for the people who started at what we would see as truly the bottom, and on the surface didn't have like any financial help or connections. Us as humans are designed to be a species of collectivity. And as much as the culture, especially in the US, has turned to a very individualist culture, we still get help and support in other ways. And all of that along with a little bit of luck, adds up to people's ability to be able to get to where they are. And that doesn't discredit people's success all of the time. It doesn't mean that they didn't work hard to get what they wanted, but I think it's really important that we keep in mind that privilege is a spectrum. It doesn't just have to do with race or ability or gender. There are tons of different layers of privilege, and like I mentioned, also just luck playing a factor that influence someone's ability to go from the bottom to the top. And by just focusing on pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, or our grandparents or parents pretending like that's what was happening in their day and age when it definitely was not, ignores the root issue that is going on, especially in the US. So this idea that you just need to work harder in order to succeed is not only a lie, but it's basically impossible in our society. So now that we have covered bootstrapping and that concept, I want to go into the effects of grind and hustle culture in today's day and age. I see this all of the time on social media. People preaching about how hard they work, using themselves as an example of working hard so that you can do it too, bragging about working 70, 80 hours a week and being absolutely exhausted, and reinforcing this narrative that it's all of the hard work that really matters, and that if you're not putting in the hard work, you're never gonna get to where you wanna go. People actually come off as bragging when they're talking about losing sleep, never turning off their work phone, being accessible 24 hours a day, or being a loner, and it's just toxic. And there's actually a name for this concept, and I'm sure all of us know exactly what I'm talking about, whether you've seen it on social media, heard it from the people in your lives, or said it or done it yourself. And I'll be honest here, I am definitely guilty of this as well. I saw modeled in my life that hard work and working your ass off and blurring the lines between work and home was the pinnacle of success and was what you should be doing. And I modeled that for a really long time. I know that I felt a sense of superiority when I could claim that I was busting my ass harder than the next person or always coming into work on my day off. And even if I was exhausted and burnt out and it was negatively affecting me, there was still this idea in my mind that somehow this made me a better person. And that's not true at all. This concept is referred to as performative workaholism. And it's where people in our society perpetuate this idea of overworking yourself and giving all to the grind. There are entire, very successful and popular Instagram and TikToks and whatever social media you can think about pages talking about this and perpetuating this idea. And since joining and being a voice in the personal finance space, I have noticed this tenfold in our community. And I'm sure you know exactly what accounts I am talking about. People who brag about their 15 side hustles that they're doing that cause them to never sleep, or about how they have taken on working 80 hours a week, 7 days a week in order to sprint toward debt freedom to finally live the life that they love. Yet, I'm sorry, have any of you ever actually seen that work out? Because what I have seen is that people just get addicted to that feeling of performative workaholism. And even when they have gotten to where they were going, suddenly there's a new goal that they have to continue sprinting toward. And it just feels like no one ever actually gets to where they want to go. And that's because with this mindset, good enough is never good enough. There is always something else that you could be striving for. So even when you've ended up where you originally wanted to end up, by the time that you get there, chances are society has convinced you that there is a new goal to be had that you need to continue working just as hard in order to achieve. Even fucking Elon Musk, which don't even get me started on that motherfucker, brags all the time about the idea of him working 100 hours a week. And once we get these messages and see them over and over again, we start to equate our value on our productivity. And trust me, again, I am guilty of this as well. It makes me feel embarrassed for myself and angry with myself that I used to perpetuate and believe in these things. And I was never one to be much about confrontation, but I remember thinking in my mind that I was better than all of my coworkers because I worked overtime or busted my ass the entire time I was there and didn't have any boundaries. I constantly picked up the phone. I would literally leave work, someone would call me, and I would return right back while sobbing in the car because I was so exhausted. But I was running on this sense of superiority because I thought that my value was based on my productivity. And because I thought that, naturally I had that expectation for everyone else. And when people actually had boundaries, I looked at that as a bad thing. Because what I have found in pretty much all areas of life is that people who are in an unhealthy place see boundaries as a personal attack. And I definitely was in that mindset. And I still see this all of the time in our culture as well. And all this does is drives us apart from each other and pits us against each other and perpetuates this idea that if you are not working all of the time and never establishing boundaries, that you are never going to get to where you want to go and that it's your fault for not doing so. And in a system where the top 1% try so hard to pit the bottom 99% against each other in hopes that they won't like rise up against them, this is a really scary mindset to have. So speaking of those top 1%, let's talk about who actually benefits from this culture. And as you probably could have guessed, and if not, let me give you a hint, it is not the majority of the population. And it's not by chance that the 1%, the top CEOs, the owners and bosses perpetuate this culture. They aren't stupid. They know exactly what they're doing. And they know exactly who benefits from making all of the people at the bottom feel like they are never working hard enough, and that is the people at the top. Someone who is salaried does not benefit from working overtime or 7 days a week or not turning their work email off at night so they can always be available. Their boss does, the company does, the stockholders do. And if we really started to break apart and see this toxic grind and hustle culture for what it is, we would all benefit at the expense of the top 1%. Companies are constantly getting free labor out of grind and hustle culture because people have this sense of loyalty and responsibility to their company that, let's be honest here, your company has never shown you in return, and I think COVID proved that to a lot of people. So we are expected to blur the boundaries between work and home life, but work is never actually there for us on a personal basis the way that we would expect them to be for the amount of effort we are putting in. And let's be honest here, this isn't working for us. Millennials have less capital, less equity, and pretty much less everything when it comes to like money, monetarily wise, than our parents did. And I think it's very obvious that it's not due to a lack of work ethic, considering how much emphasis is put on overworking yourself. So if our culture is hustling and grinding and still not getting the equity and the returns on our time and investment that we thought that we would, who really is benefiting here? And while I am thankful that 2020 and now part of 2021 has helped us to take a step back and has helped a lot of people to realize how much they were putting into work and how much work was expecting of them that is not normal, I think we still have a long way to go. And I think it's going to be really important that we continue on these conversations as things start to build up, we start going back into the office, companies start to expect things to return to normal, because if there was any time that would be easy for us to put our foot down and stop allowing companies to take advantage of us, it's now. I am so excited to talk more about this in my upcoming video, and I think that these conversations are so important for us to have, especially in the personal finance space where we are constantly talking about money, paying off debt, investing, and side hustles. While all of those things can be productive and a very good thing for you and your future, we have to keep in mind that going too far can be just as toxic as going too far the other way where we don't care at all. I really hope that you enjoyed and you learned something cool or it started to make you think about things in a different way. Definitely let me know your thoughts, opinions, statistics, anything you got down below. And if you did enjoy this video, please remember to give it a big thumbs up. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm, helps boost this video to the top. That way more people can find this content, and I will see you all next time. Bye.